What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live for your NFL Power Rankings, entering week number 5 of the 2021 NFL season, post week 4. So either way you look at it, it could be week 4 Power Rankings, week 5 Power Rankings, but a bunch of people wanted me to do some Power Rankings. I guess they missed it or something, or I guess they wanted more content here on the channel. Perfectly cool with me. So I'm going to deliver because that's what I do. So in this video, every week on Tuesday, we are going to go live at some point during the day, and I'll deliver my power rankings every single week in the NFL from number 32 to number 1. So this isn't just simply a top 10, a top 12, top 16, top 20. This is a top 32 list. So I'm going from number 32 all the way to number 1, giving you my small thoughts, bits and pieces on every single team, what I've seen from them the week previous, and what I expect to see them moving forward. Just a quick little word on the power rankings, guys, is I personally am not going to try to be like super overreactionary when it comes to power rankings. I'm not going to like super overreact to any week. I'm going to try to stay within the line, so to speak. I'm going to try to stay water. I'm going to try to stay not over positive, not over negative with any team any given week. I try to project forward in these power rankings and see who I think is going to be there for the long run, not just for the right here, right now. All right, so we do a top 10, Ultras top 10 on Instagram. If you guys aren't already following us on Instagram, make sure you do at TheBottomLineView. You can find his top 10 teams each and every week over there, but these will be my personal power rankings, all right? So let's go, and let's do the top 32. All right. So let's begin from the bottom, and let's trend our way up. So, we have tiers, right? We have tiers. So as you can see, we have a ranking for the team, and we have a tier ranking, okay? We have a trash category. We have a bad category. You'll see the other tiers moving forward, and there's no specific amount of teams in one category, in one tier. It's going to change each and every week depending on how I feel about that team. All right, so at number 32, I have at number 32 the Texans. Personally, the Texans are the worst team right now. Now, I think I would have said last week that it was the Jacksonville Jags, but the Texans have been trending downward. The Jags have been trending upward. Okay, Jacksonville, yes, has to go through the whole Urban Meyer fiasco, and that is a disaster. Don't get me wrong, but they're a more talented team at this point in time. Right now, Jacksonville is playing better football than Houston. If Houston had Tyrod Taylor, I'd put Houston at number 31, but they have Davis Mills, the man with the longest neck in the NFL, and currently he's the worst starting quarterback in the league. And that is why the Texans, they're the least talented roster in the league. They are number 32 to me. The second worst team is Jacksonville. I think it's pretty clear that either way you slice it, those are the two worst teams in the NFL. Texans do have a win. Jags don't have a win yet. I expect it to come soon, though. I think Trevor Lawrence has gotten better with every game. And I expect Jacksonville, especially if they end up firing Urban Meyer and bringing in a new coach, I think that's actually going to help them. We'll see how they progress this season. Number 30, I have the Detroit Lions. The Lions are one of those teams that is very, very competitive each and every game, each and every week, but they simply are not a good football team. They are a competitive team that can hang in a lot of games versus a lot of opponents, but they aren't going to win very many games, and that simply means you're not very good. They don't have a ton of talent on either side of the football, and they can't really lean on any element of their team. Their offensive line play, their pass rush, their run game, their passing game, they don't really have any element that is phenomenal, that is great, which means ultimately they're just bad, okay? Detroit doesn't have a win yet, and they don't have a win yet for a reason, because they really have no elite players on their team. Not saying they're awful, but they're trash, all right? At number 29, I think the Jets are slightly better than those three other teams. I think the Jets proved that versus the Titans at home with their first win of the season. Zach Wilson's getting better with more games under his belt. Corey Davis looks pretty good in the fold there offensively. I think they're going to grow as an offense, as an offensive unit. Young play caller, young coach, young running back, a lot of young receivers. Jamison Crowder back certainly helps them. The defensive line is competitive every week, and they give them an edge. They were a big reason. 7 sacks on Ryan Tannehill last week. I think the Jets are kind of a feistier team even than the Lions. They have more talent, I think, on both sides of the ball. Zach Wilson is a lot more talented than Jared Goff, and I really feel like their defensive line, it kind of gives them that edge on the defensive side of the ball. 28th, I have the Atlanta Falcons. They're pretty bad. I'm not going to lie, they're pretty bad. Their offensive line's pretty bad, but I will say that they do still have Matt Ryan. They still have Calvin Ridley. Kyle Pitts, maybe he's going to trend upward. I expect him to. The defense at least fights, okay? They at least fight hard. They're not very talented, but at least they fight. Dean Pease, Arthur Smith, we'll see if they continue to improve this team. We've seen a little bit of an improvement each and every week from Atlanta, and I expect that to continue. At number 27, I have the team that barely beat them, the Washington football team. Washington is not very good. In fact, they're probably one of the most shockingly bad teams in the NFL. Like, they have a very talented roster on paper, but it hasn't translated to victories. Yes, they do have 2 wins, but I thought they were the worst team on Thursday night when they played the Giants. I thought the Giants were the better team in that game, and they should have won the game if not for a bad referee call. And overall, I think the Giants are the better football team. I also think the Eagles are the better football team, which means that the football team is the worst team in the NFC East. Their defensive line is supremely underwhelmed. Their defense is one of the worst in football right now statistically. Their offense is extremely erratic. I just don't like anything about them right now. Nothing. There's nothing I can hang my hat on except for Terry McLaurin week to week. Number 26, the Chicago Bears. The one thing I will say about the Bears is at least their front 7 gives them a chance in every game. Right? Their offense isn't good. Justin Fields so far has been extremely erratic. He's had some good moments of, showing his promise, but their offense is extremely underwhelming. It's very vanilla right now. They are without David Montgomery moving forward for the next 4 to 5 weeks, I guess. Allen Robinson needs to show up. I mean, where is the guy at? Most wanted man in the NFL. I don't see him each and every week. Darnell Mooney's coming on now with Justin Fields, who seems to fit him perfectly. But the one thing I'll say about the Bears that I do like is their defense, their front 7, every week gives the opposing offense a tough time. And it's a mismatch every week. And that's why the Bears are better than the worst teams in the league, because they give them an opportunity to win that game. So that's why I have them a little bit higher than some of the worst teams, even though their offense is so bad. At number 25, the Eagles. The Eagles, honestly, I think all around are one of the worst teams in the league, but they've shown so far, and I can't really say that they're super terrible because they've played some tough teams. Like, they've lost to some tough teams. They lost to the Chiefs, they lost to the Cowboys, they lost to the Niners. So I can understand those losses. I wouldn't have picked them to win in any of those games. So it's totally understandable that they lost all 3 of those games and that they only beat the Atlanta Falcons. They showed that they could dominate the Falcons. My problem here is that the Falcons in week 1 were horrendous. I mean, they were atrocious. It was more bad Falcons than it was good Eagles. But I will say, Jalen Hurts, not great. I'm not sold on him moving forward as the franchise quarterback. I really am not. Their skill talent is underwhelming. Honestly, Miles Sanders has been a major disappointment. The coaching is extremely questionable. I don't know why they just don't run the ball at all. The offensive line has some key losses. The defensive line has some key losses. And that is what made this team interesting. The offensive line play, the defensive line play. With good offensive line and defensive line play, they might have been an interesting team. But they don't have that no longer. They got ran over by the Chiefs last week. They did whatever they wanted on offense last week, and I feel like the Eagles are going to continue to trend downward. They face a very tough schedule, and really the only reason I have them here is because I'm willing to cut them a break because they've played some tough teams. But you could rank them anywhere from 25 to like 29. Somewhere in that range, in my opinion, is where I'd put the Eagles. I am very much down on the Eagles right now. I don't like what I see on either side of the ball. Their defense was horrendous last week. Next, we have at number 24, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Pittsburgh Steelers are still in the bad category. The Steelers are mostly a bad team because they have an awful quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger is terrible. Terrible. Horrendous. Arguably the worst quarterback in the league, not named Davis Mills. Their offensive line is maybe even worse than that. They can't run the ball. They can't pass protect. Deontay Johnson, shout out to Durkant's boy, is playing pretty well. And Najee Harris is making do with what he can. But other than that, their offense is so awful, it hurts my eyeballs. The defense is fine. It's decent. It's okay. It's capable. But it's not special. And that's why they're not able to pull out these wins. They can have good games because they've got a lot of front seven talent. But it's been a little bit inconsistent because the offense just, when you don't have an offense that can move the ball, it's worrisome in the NFL in 2021. So that's why the Steelers are at 24. At 23, the Dolphins. The Dolphins, you could flip them with the Steelers. They're pretty close, in my opinion. Both teams have absolutely horrendous offensive lines. Quarterback play has been very bad. Tua is better than Brissett so far. I will say that much. I think the Dolphins, though, their weaponry is certainly there when they have it intact. Now, Will Fuller is hurt. Their running game is absolutely non-existent. Myles Gaskin has been a non-factor. Their defense has been a little bit underwhelming, but it does make plays here and now and every once in a while. And they're well coached. I will say that. The Dolphins are well coached by Brian Flores. I want to see what they look like with Tua. It's really tough to judge because they don't have their starting quarterback. At number 22, the New York Giants. The Giants are, I think, a team on the rise. The Giants, in my opinion, should be 2-2. They should have beat Washington in that game. They were the much better team. Daniel Jones, right now, Pro Football Focus is number 4 graded quarterback in the NFL and has played like a top 15 quarterback. If I were to rank quarterbacks in the NFL this season, Daniel Jones would be in my top 15. The offensive line, Andrew Thomas deserves some respect, has been playing very well. Saquon looks back. He looks healthy. He's making big plays now like he did versus the Saints. They've got a plethora of receivers. Kadarius Toney added into the mix, who's an ankle-breaking machine. The defense is well-schooled and very good. Nobody can really run on them consistently. They've got a good secondary. I think the Giants are going to be a team that is in the fight, in the hunt, all right? They are that last team that I say they're kind of bad, all right? Then you have number 21, the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are in the hunt because they're in such a bad division. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Colts, but they're in the AFC South. And the AFC South is dreadful. It's horrendous. It's garbage, okay? So the Colts, I'll also say this about them. Their offensive line has not been healthy. The quarterback has been beat up. They've had a lot of injuries. And yes, they're 1-3, but we really haven't seen the Colts at full strength. Okay, they got a win over the Dolphins, proving that they're not one of the worst teams in the league. And when you look at the games that they lost to the Seahawks, they lost to the Rams, they lost to the Titans. None of those teams are bad, okay? So the Colts have lost to teams that are better than them, but not necessarily bad teams. And they've beaten one bad team. So I think the Colts are somewhere, in the hunt still. If they can pull off a win, maybe the Titans drop another game, they're right back in the thick of things. They're in the thick of things right now. They're only one game behind the Titans, basically. So Carson Wentz got to stay healthy. I believe in Frank Reich. I think the defense is solid enough. And if they can get that offensive line back with Jonathan Taylor behind it, they're going to be in the mix. So I got the Colts at 21. At number 20, the Saints. The Saints are a team trending downward, I think. I'm not a believer in the Saints long term. I think the Saints are a team that match up well with certain teams, kind of like the Patriots, right? They beat the Patriots. They matched up well with New England. They won that game. I think there's certain matchups where they don't fare well and are not going to fare well. I think the Saints are kind of a paper tiger right now. They're 2-2. I would not be betting on them moving forward. I think they're going to be, at best, the third best team in the NFC South. I don't think they are on Carolina's level. I don't think they're on Tampa Bay's level. I'm not a believer in Jameis Winston. If you have to make him pass over 25 times a game, you're probably going to win the game. The receivers are not there. Michael Thomas is coming back. That should help them overall. The defense is pretty good. They've got a lot of injuries on it, but I just don't see them being a playoff team. I see them being decent. They're going to win some games that shock you. They're going to lose some games that shock you. But in any given week, they can win or they can lose. And that's a team that I can't rely on. That's why they're at number 20. They are still in the hunt because of Sean Payton and because they got good offensive and defensive lines. But overall, I just can't trust Jameis Winston right now. At number 19, the 49ers. A lot of this has to do with the injury to Jimmy Garoppolo. Trey Lance, I'm not a fan of. I think Trey Lance is going to fail miserably early in his career. He's not ready. He's a year away from being a year away. And so far, the offense has been extremely disappointing. They have not ran the ball the way that I thought they could. Elijah Mitchell being hurt does hurt that. But George Kittle, where you at, bro? Brandon Ayuk, where you at, bro? The only guy consistently making plays is Deebo Samuel. The O-line's pretty good, but the defense too, lack of secondary pieces. Cornerback play is not very good. They can really dominate a game like we saw versus Seattle and still lose. That to me is a true sign of a team that's not ready for prime time and the best teams in football. I think they're 2-2. That's about where they'll end up. They're going to be about a bit above 500, but they do appear to be the worst team in the NFC West right now. At number 18, the Patriots. Now, you could argue the Patriots should be a little bit lower. I think you could argue they should be above the Vikings. I mean, they're in this mix here. But the Patriots are a team that I think should be 2-2. Another team that I think should be 2-2. They should have beat the Dolphins if Damian Harris doesn't sell and fumble the ball at the end of the game. They feel like a 2-2 team to me, but they're 1-3 right now. They lost to the Bucs, they lost to the Saints, and they lost to the Dolphins, right? They beat the Jets. I think New England is a team, the reason I have them at 18 is because I think they're trending upward. I think they're trending in a positive direction. Mac Jones is getting better with every game. They've yet to have Trent Brown in there on the offensive line, which I think will significantly help their running game and help them provide more balance to the offense. I think there's been a lot of new pieces on the team, right? There's been a lot of new pieces on the offense and the defense. And I think Belichick is using this time, the first 4 weeks, to fine-tune some things. And I think this team is going to get better on both sides of the ball. I actually think New England is trending towards being the best defense in the NFL. They're going to add Gilmore back in week 7. They just signed Jamie Collins. Their defense has been pretty darn good through the first 4 games, including versus Tampa Bay on Sunday night. I think their defense is going to carry them to a lot of wins. But if their offense can improve, they can actually be a dark horse type of team to sneak into the wild card. That's where I'm at with the Patriots. They're going to be in the mix because they're well coached. They're going to have a great defense and a good special teams, but they need more production and balance from their offense. So they're at 18. At number 17, the Vikings. Vikings are probably the best 1-3 team in the NFL. In almost every single game they've played, maybe every game they've played, they could have won the game. You know, they just lost to the Browns by, I think, a touchdown. And I still believe that the Vikings can fight for a wild card spot. They still have that type of talent. They've been a little bit unlucky. I'm not going to predict them to make the playoffs at the moment, but I wouldn't count them out necessarily because their defense has been getting a lot better, especially up front, dominating teams. Their secondary hasn't been giving up as many big plays, and their offense we know can be very, very good each and every week with great balance, great weaponry. Kirk Cousins is playing well. So the Vikings are the best team with a bad record in the NFL at the moment. Next, we have at number 16, the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are in the hunt right now. They're 3-1. I personally think they're a little bit worse than their record suggests. They didn't play well versus Jacksonville, but they still showed enough desire, enough fight to be able to beat the Jags on Thursday night, which is never an easy thing to do in the NFL, to win a game on a Thursday night. You know, that's a short week. So I give them a little bit of credit for doing that because the old Bengals maybe would have slipped up there, never came back in the game. Joe Burrow is getting better with every game. Their offensive line has surprisingly been not awful. They've been able to run the ball on most teams. And the defense, I think, has really been pretty good. But they need to have a consistent pass rush. Their secondary is really solid and can make plays, but they need to continue to get a consistent rush up front. The Bengals, I think, are probably not going to end up making the playoffs, but they'll be one of those teams that fight hard or in every game because Joe Burrow can make the throws. They've got great receivers. They've got a lot of weaponry, and the defense has a good coverage unit. And when you got all those things, it's never going to be easy to beat the Bengals. So that's why I have them at 16. At number 15, the Broncos. The Broncos are also 3-1. They have a pretty darn good defense, but I'm starting to get concerned about the offense with all the losses at wide receiver, all the losses now at quarterback. I feel like this team is starting trending downward because the Broncos, the defense can only do so much versus the best teams in the NFL. As we saw versus the Ravens, the Ravens slowly but surely pulled away in the game because Denver couldn't move the ball. So I need to see that offense versus good teams put up some points. And so far, the Broncos have won 3 games versus subpar opponents and have lost to the one team that was actually good. So that's why I have them at 15 right now. At 14, the Panthers. I think the Panthers are a wild card team at the moment. I think, the wild card, essentially that tier means like they're probably going to make the wild card or they're a wild card type team. I don't quite see them as a contender, but they're in the wild card type mix, okay? So the Panthers are at 14. I've liked mostly what I've seen from the Panthers in terms of the quarterback, Sam Darnold, in terms of the offense. DJ Moore's been having his best year ever. Christian McCaffrey hurt. That certainly has hurt them as he really creates a lot of their offense as a receiver and a runner. But, they've got lots of weapons. They got to use Robbie Anderson more. They've got to use Terrace Marshall more. If they can do that, they can develop this offense to the next level. Sam Darnold, though, has been a nice sign of a quarterback that can be reliable and consistent and make plays. So that's nice to see for them. Defensively has been mostly good, but they did just face their best offense they faced all year by a mile in the Cowboys, and they got ran all over. I think that's going to be a wake-up call for the defense that they can't simply invite teams to run the ball, especially when they have great offensive lines like Dallas does. And it did show that the Panthers maybe are not quite ready for primetime teams and not quite ready for the best teams in the NFL, but they'll beat basically all the bad teams. So that to me is the 14th best team in the NFL. At 13, the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks, because they have Russell Wilson, they're going to be able to hang in games and they're going to be able to fight and they're going to be able to make some big plays on anybody. But I just don't think they have enough talent overall. And the schemes are very vanilla on both sides of the ball. The defense really lacks a lot of upper echelon playmakers at corner and pass rush, which is the 2 most important areas of a defense. And then the offense, just the scheme continues to be kind of lame. It's kind of feast or famine for them. Now Chris Carson's gone down with an injury, probably not playing on Thursday. They're in an extremely tough division. And really, when you look at some of the last win versus the 49ers, the win versus the Colts, they kind of won those games because they played bad quarterbacks. I'm just going to be honest with you. In the other games, they blew it. So we'll see what the Seahawks and how they improve and how they trend forward. I'm not really sure. I know where they're going to end up. I feel like they could end up being a playoff team, but I feel like they could also not be a playoff team. So one thing I do know about Seattle is I don't think they're going to be contending for a Super Bowl. I just don't see enough talent on this team. At number 12, I've got the Tennessee Titans. The Titans, I do believe, are mostly overrated by the BLV community, but that's not to say they're necessarily bad. It also helps that they play a very easy division where they'll pick up likely 5 to 6 wins. And the Titans, I will cut them a break that they didn't have, Julio and AJ Brown. Once they get those guys back, they're about a Seahawks, Panthers, Raiders type of team where they can pull off an upset versus anybody, but they'll also lose versus just about anybody, as we saw versus the Jets. Their defense continues to be lousy. Their offensive line has not been very good, but Derrick Henry has been a monster. Tannehill has still been pretty darn good, and when they have those receivers, they are a very dynamic offense. So I will put the Titans at number 12. At 11, I think the Raiders are kind of just a better version of the Titans. They've got a very good offensive scheme. The offensive line is inconsistent. The run game has been inconsistent, but Derek Carr has been able to carry them. The one problem I have with the Raiders is that they're asking too much from Derek Carr this year. They're asking for him to do too much to win games by himself. That's not going to do it versus the best teams in the NFL. He needs more help around him. Hunter Renfrow has been a revelation. The guy's been amazing. I love what we've seen from Henry Ruggs down the field. Darren Waller is a baller. We know this. Defensively has really been where they've improved a ton, and that's why they've become a playoff team. Their defense, Max Crosby, the linebacking play from Denzel Perryman and company. The secondary, Casey Hayward, the improvement across the board with Gus Bradley's defense. They are a much better defense than the Titans. That's why I give the edge to the Raiders at 11. At 10, the Ravens are the first of the contenders. So there's 10 teams that I believe are contenders right now, the Ravens being the most iffy of that list. I see the Ravens rated very highly by some power rankings, inside the top 3, the top 5. I don't necessarily agree with that because I think their offense, it's not exactly the most consistent passing the football, and their run game hasn't been as great as it typically has been in recent years. Their defense, the same thing. It hasn't been as great. They've kind of squeaked by in a few of these games, but they did show their best, I thought, their best overall game versus the Broncos, which did impress me enough to put them inside the top 10 because their defense showed up. Wink Martindale is one of the best defensive schemers in football. He's going to continue to improve this team. Overall on defense. Their secondary can still play. Their pass rush definitely needs some help with elaborate blitzes and stunts and things, but they can get it done when they're given an opportunity for 3rd and long to get after it, and that's what Martindale does year after year. They're very well coached. They have the best kicker in football. They've got an MVP-type quarterback, and they'll be adding Rashad Bateman to the receiving core that I think is going to open up the passing game. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Ravens' offense develop and potentially get better down the road. At number 9, the Browns. The Browns would be a top 5 team easily to me if I wasn't just absolutely not sold on Baker right now. Baker Mayfield, I've been trying to back this guy. I've been trying to say the guy's better than you give him credit for. But dude, he's got to be better than he's been the last 2 weeks. He's been bad. Last week versus the Vikings, they're lucky that defense turned in a very good performance. And I will say about the Browns, they might be a better, well-rounded team than last year. Their defense looks to be playing very good football, especially up front, creating pressure with a 4-man rush, stopping the run very effectively. Malik McDowell, Owusu Karamoa, these guys have been awesome for them. Myles Garrett is the best edge player in football right now. They've got a good secondary that can play man or zone. Their offensive line, they can run the ball on most teams. But Baker needs to be better, and he needs to be better throwing the ball down the field when Odell is wide open. He needs to be better. If Baker can be better, this team can win the AFC. So I have them at number 9. Now moving inside the top 8, we have the Kansas City Chiefs as a contender. The Chiefs, you could argue, should be higher. They are the Chiefs. They have Mahomes. They arguably have the best, most explosive, consistent offense in football at number 8, but their defense might be the worst in football. So they're a very difficult team to figure out because they're so much reliant on Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill to win them games. And that, to me, is just a very uncomfortable feeling when you play the elite teams. They'll be able to beat every bad team because they're going to score 30 points a week. But when they play the best teams, the Bucks, the Bills, the Rams, these teams are going to take advantage of that bad defense. And that's when it comes to the playoffs. So that's why I have the Chiefs at 8. At number 7, the Packers. Aaron Rodgers has been great again, no doubt. The offensive line has been still good even despite the injuries. Aaron Jones has been, come and go, but the run game can still get it done. Devontae Adams is arguably, a top 3, top 1 receiver in the league. I would like to see them continue to develop the other weapons in the passing game. Last week, it was Randall Cobb. We'll see if he can continue to do that from the slot. I think, the Packers defense is going to have to be the reason they are a true contender. If the Packers defense in the secondary can improve and they can continue to stop the run the way they have, I think the Packers can win the NFC. But that needs to continue because I don't think the offense is ever going to get back to the way it was last year. At number 6, the Chargers. The Chargers have extremely impressed me every single week. They did lose to the Cowboys, but I thought they still could have arguably won that game. Every other week, though, Brandon Staley continues to be arguably the best coach in the NFL, this year, and it's his first year. He's improved every week defensively. They have kept every opponent to their lowest score against, right? Their lowest score 4. And the offense, Justin Herbert is a freaking baller. Austin Eckler is awesome. Keenan Allen is great. And Mike Williams is having his breakout season, his best year ever. The O-line is pretty good too. They can run it. They can pass it. When they want to do either, they can figure it out. The defense can really cover really well. They can get after it with Joey Bosa. They have very few flaws, the Chargers do. And the Chargers are the type of team that in the modern NFL, their flaws don't really matter. Okay, their flaws don't really matter because sure, they invite you to run the ball. Who cares? I don't care. At number 5, the Cowboys. The Cowboys' offense is so good that it elevates the rest of their team. Their offense is absolutely insane right now. Their offensive line is elite. Quarterback Dak is an MVP level right now. CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper haven't even been producing, and they've been putting up a ton of points. Michael Gallup isn't in the lineup. They putting up a ton of points. Tony Pollard's the best backup in the league, and Zeke's playing at a very high level right now for them in all elements, in all facets of the game. And the defense has improved. Their pass rush is getting to the quarterback. Randy Gregory. No DeMarcus Lawrence hasn't mattered. Micah Parsons steps up. They just released Jalen Smith. We'll see how maybe Cox comes in and replaces him. The secondary, Trevon Diggs, has been an elite corner this year, and their safety play has been very reliable. They're forcing a lot of turnovers. They're getting negative plays, and that's all you can ask for with an excellent offense on the other side. All you need is a few stops a game, and that's what the Cowboys have been able to do. At number 4, the Cardinals. Like I said, guys, I'm not going to overreact to any given game, any given week. The Cardinals have been awesome. They are undefeated. They are 4-0. But if you ask me right now who's going to win the NFC, my answer would not be the Cardinals, period. It would not be. They would be third in line. That's why I have the Cardinals at number 4, period. Okay? Kyler Murray's arguably the MVP right now. They can really dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball when they ask to. Pass rushing wise, offensive line pass protecting wise, they can do it both. And AJ Green, I mean, good for him. He's been playing very well. Christian Kirk, Rondell Moore, Max Williams, Chase Edmonds, James Conner, they have a plethora of talent surrounding the Roadrunner to make things happen. Cliff Kingsbury, hey man, you deserve an apology. You've been good. The defense, the secondary's been better than expected. Budda Baker, Thompson, Murphy, these guys have all balled out. I respect it. At number 4, but I'm not going to overreact to it. At number 3, the Rams. Yes, the Cardinals did beat the Rams, but the Rams, I think, will be, at the end of the day, the better football team. I truly do believe that. I'm put my faith in the combination of McVay and Stafford. I think they got caught sleeping at the wheel in that game. They came out flat. They never adjusted. They never came out strong. They didn't fight for it. I think the Rams will probably end up winning the second of the 2 matchups, and then people will then readjust. I'm just projecting down the road to see what I see. And overall, the Rams, they have a pretty good defense. It's not great, okay? It's not nearly as good as it was last year, and they definitely need to adjust to create more aggressive negative plays for opposing offenses because they've been a little bit too relaxed. They've been a little bit too lenient, allowing, easy yardage from opposing offenses. I think they need to get after it a little bit more, the Rams, in that facet. And then offensively, they've been just about one of the best in the league. Stafford's been a great upgrade over Goff. The offensive line's been very good. I think Henderson, guys, is a legitimate running back. This guy is a good player. And you got Sony behind him. Tyler Higbee's a good tight end. They've got a bunch of different receivers who all do a little bit different things. Cooper Kupp's playing at a great level. Robert Woods hasn't really been involved much, but Van Jefferson has been awesome for them as a number 2, number 3. Djax is that field stretcher. I think they got all the elements, and they're very, very well coached. They're capable of beating any team in the NFL. And then at number 2, I have the Bucs. Some people in the comments are saying, why do you got the Bucs at number 2? That doesn't make sense. Well, they have all these injuries, and, I don't think it's going to matter, guys, because when you look at their schedule, they don't really play anyone tough. I don't really see them losing many games for the rest of the year, and they really don't play any other elite team besides the Bills for the rest of the season, and that comes like week 14. So, sure, is their secondary not great right now? Yeah, but that's likely due to a lot of injuries. I think their defense is going to get better. I think their front 7 is going to continue to get better. I like the adjustments I've seen from Todd Bowles in that Patriots game. I think Richard Sherman's going to help them. I think overall the offense is going to find more balance with Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones running the ball. The offensive line's excellent. Tom Brady's the best quarterback in football for me right now. Gronk's hurt. He's going to come back at some point. Mike Evans is playing great. Godwin's playing great. AB's playing great. I mean, yeah, they lost to the Rams. It happens. They're going to lose a game. My prediction aside, every team loses a game. You can't overreact to that. So the Bucs, I think, will figure out their defense as things go along, and they have the capability of playing elite defense. Okay, they have the capability of playing elite defense, and they have the capability of playing elite offense. And there's not many teams in the NFL that can actually say that. So I'm not really going to overreact to the Bucs losing a game or maybe underperforming versus one or two teams. They're there. They're there for a reason. They won the Super Bowl. If they get hot, it's really tough to stop this team. So the Bucs are at number 2. They've lost one game in their last 12. So at number 1, the Buffalo Bills. The reason the Bills are number 1, hey, if you're going to complain about the Bucs at number 2, the Bills also lost a game. So you can't really complain about the Bucs if you're going to not complain about the Bills. You know what I mean? So the Bills lost to the Steelers. They didn't lose to the Rams. They lost to the Steelers. Regardless, though, I have the Bills at number 1 because I think they've figured some things out since then. The offensive line's gotten a little bit better. They've played worse defenses and worse teams, which has certainly helped, but they've dominated those teams on both sides of the ball. And the thing I'll say about the Bills is they're playing the most complimentary football in the NFL, and that's why they're number 1 because, yes, I do believe that offense wins games in this league today, but you do need to be a championship team to have a defense, and the Bills right now have a defense, and right now one of the better ones in the league. Their front 7 has yet to have a bad game. They have yet to lose that battle with their front 7 all year. Their secondary is performing. Josh Allen has been a little bit less accurate, a little bit more erratic, but he's still able to make the upper tier plays that he made last year. Look at that one last week versus Stephon Diggs. And they have developed a little bit more of a running game with Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, which has been nice to see. So yes, the Bills haven't been as good passing the ball. They haven't been as good in terms of their explosive ability offensively this year as they were last. But they have a better defense right now. They have a better offensive line running the ball right now. And they just have less holes and less clear deficiencies and flaws. So that's why the Bills are my top team at this moment in time. Again, guys, I try to stay water. So I try to stay in the middle. I try to stay not overreacting to one week, not overreacting to one game or one matchup. I try to put it in the overall picture of things. And those are my top teams. Those are my rankings for every team in the NFL. So there you have it, guys. Those are your post-week 4, week 5 NFL power rankings. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to Gronk Spike that like button and also subscribe to the channel for more Bottom Line View NFL power rankings, guys. I'll be doing this every single Tuesday live, likely around the same time every week. Thanks, guys, for watching. It's been Mitch. Peace.